Hi everyone, welcome to Course 1, Unit 2. So in this unit, we'll be talking about memberships to the ISO technical committees. In Unit 1, we talked about memberships to ISO the organization. I had shown a map on the slides where you saw the three different types of categories of ISO members. We had the full members, we had the corresponding member, and we had the subscribing members. So now we're talking about membership once again, but we're talking about membership at the technical committee level. If you remember that last useful slide in Unit 1 where we had the bird's eye view of the governance structure at ISO, at the very bottom we had the technical committees, which were just below the technical management board. So in this unit, we will be talking about the different membership possibilities for these technical committees. So they sit at the bottom of the governance structure, but they are the core business of ISO because that is where international standards are created. So the questions answered in this units are what are the different memberships of ISO technical committees and what are the associated rights and obligations? So the main aim of this unit is really to help you understand who is sitting next to you at an ISO meeting. So either at a plenary or at a working group, in a working group meeting, who's sitting next to you. And there are four different types of category of memberships. We see them appearing on this slide. So we have the participating member, the observing member, the external liaison, and the internal liaison. So the two types of membership in the top quarters, they are reserved to ISO members. We'll go into the detail in the futures in the next slides, but these are reserves to the ISO members that we talked about in Unit 1. So what happens if you're not an ISO member and you wish to participate in the technical work at ISO? Is that possible? The answer is yes, and this is where the external liaison comes in. So organization have the capacity to participate in ISO technical work, but they must meet a certain set of criteria, which are detailed in our ISO directives. And the reason for that, of course, is because we don't want to bypass the ISO members who are responsible for the stakeholder engagement process. This is also a point I emphasized in Unit 1. Last but not least, we have internal liaison. So this mechanism is to ensure proper coordination and collaboration amongst different technical committees at ISO, or also with technical committees at the IEC. So starting with the P members, so P membership to the ISO technical committees are reserved only to the ISO full members. So they're the only member at ISO that have the capacity to choose to become a P member. So once they choose to become a P member, they accept an active role. And what does that mean? Well, it means that they have voting obligations and they must appoint experts to the different working groups so that they contribute to the technical work. They also need to provide national delegations. So at this point in time, if you're confused between the difference between a working group meeting, technical committee plenary meeting, experts, delegates, do not worry. These topics will be covered extensively in the units of Course 2 and Course 3. But as I said in my introductory remarks, the main aim of this unit is really just to understand who's sitting next to you at these different types of meetings. And last but not least, the ISO member that chooses to become a P member is responsible for the stakeholder engagement within his country. That's a a very important point that I emphasize in Unit 1, every single ISO member is responsible for their national stakeholder engagement within their country. Observing members are reserved for full member or corresponding members at ISO, so they could choose to be O members, but it's only the full members that are allowed to become P members. So corresponding member could only be O members to technical committees. So these are members that wish to follow the work, but without committing too much resources. So naturally, they have less rights. So they have no voting rights. They could make contribution in form of commenting the work, but they and it could also receive, of course, all the relevant information and documentation on the progress. But they do not want to commit further, and one of the reasons could be, for example, because they need more time in order to gather a sufficient amount of stakeholder in their country before they can make relevant contribution on a specific project. So that could be one of the reasons why they want to first sign up as an O member, get to know the project, receive various working documents and information, and once they have the proper stakeholder base, then they can make that move and toggle from O member to P member. So as I said at the beginning, this category is open to full member body and corresponding member, but only the full member body can toggle in and out of O membership and P membership. When they go from P membership to O membership, then of course, they're not allowed to appoint experts to the working group because the participation to the working group is reserved to the P members. External liaison are possible under certain conditions. One of these conditions is, of course, that the organization must have a broad geographical coverage and is able to gather the inputs of stakeholders on a regional or international level. They have no voting rights. They could participate by submitting comments on the work, and they also receive all the relevant documents and information. External liaisons are very important to ensure wider acceptance, in other words, to ensure global relevance of our standard. And they also help to achieve a wider acceptance once the deliverable is published, so once the international standard is published. There are three different types of category of external liaison, A, B, C, and D. So that might be a useful slide to remember for you. And briefly, category A liaison is at the committee level. They do not have voting rights, but they could participate in the work by providing comments on the various documents. Category B liaison is also at the committee level, but they do not have voting rights and they cannot participate in the work. So this category is reserved for intergovernmental organizations that wish to be kept informed of the work of a specific technical committee at ISO. And category C liaison is at the working group level. So A and B is at the TC level. Category C is at the working group level. So once again, don't worry if you get confused about the technical committee level and the working group level. We'll cover this extensively in the future courses and units. But this category C liaison is at the working group level where the experts work on documents, and if they're signed up as a category C liaison, they could participate in this work in the working groups. And last but not least, we have these internal liaisons. So internal liaisons are established between ISO technical committees or between ISO and IEC, technical committees. And this is just to ensure that there's a good collaboration and a good coordination between the technical committees when the projects start slightly overlapping on each other's scope. So internal liaison, like external liaison, have no voting rights, but they can participate by submitting comments on the documents, and also they remain informed of the progress and receive all the relevant documents. So thank you very much for your attention. That's it for Course 1, Unit 2, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you in the next unit.